Picture the scene. A young starlet sits alone in her wide-open farm. She idly looks for a new novel to grab her attention between shooting schedules. That's when she comes across it, the book which would define her life, her career, and the success of an entire streaming service. The long and sordid tale, full of mysteries and secrets even the show's most loyal fan may have missed. The tale of the Flight Attendant.
Here we go.
After coming across the cover of The Flight Attendant by Chris Bojalian and reading the summary that it was about a blonde flight attendant who wakes up next to a dead body, television star Kaley Cuoco didn't even waste time actually reading the novel. She jumped on the chance to plan out her follow-up to 10 years of The Big Bang Theory. Immediately, Cuoco made some calls about getting the rights to the book as soon as possible. She knew that she had to act fast. So what was Cuoco's first question about the rights? Does Reese Witherspoon have them yet? Luckily for us, Kaley got there first. Better luck next time, Elwoods. Kaley Cuoco may be known for playing the wild and, let's just say, active Penny on The Big Bang Theory, but real-life Kaley Cuoco isn't quite so wild. The change from the PG-13 world of mainstream sitcoms to HBO content, R-rated craziness, proved to be quite challenging. The first scene where Cuoco was forced to confront this involved the infamous bathroom makeout session in the airplane that was used for literally every piece of marketing for the show. I'm surprised it wasn't all that was on the poster. The scene wasn't going well, and it was starting to become a problem. Luckily, she had a co-star who was very familiar with this kind of thing. Mikael Hausman, otherwise known as Dario Naharis from Game of Thrones, has filmed more than his fair share of intimate sequences. Kaley asked him for guidance, which he was all too happy to give. I don't know what he told her, but, well, you've seen the show.
That makes me feel so much better.
The Flight Attendant is a show filled with ridiculous scenarios. It's got international intrigue, assassins, money laundering, double crosses, and that crazy shower in Andy's apartment that's literally in the middle of her living room. So what was the one thing that Kaley Cuoco thought was a little too far? That is the infamous lavatory makeout. Man, she really did not like this scene. She apparently thought the scene was so over the top and unrealistic that the other producers had to find articles confirming that the fabled Mile High Club does in fact exist and is a lot more common than you'd think. After finding out the disgusting truth, she relented and the rest is television history. So Kaley, how common did you think it was for people to wake up next to dead bodies? I'm legitimately worried about your private life now. In a show that had reveal after reveal after reveal, by far the biggest one was the revelation that Cassie's rebound beau, Buckley, was actually the assassin the whole time. Not only that, but he was stalking Cassie and Alex from the very beginning. If you thought this was just a cheap ploy thrown into the finale, you'd be wrong. Turns out that Buckley was in the background across every single episode of the series. They were actually worried people would catch him and ruin it. They were wrong. I do want to say though, I totally called it. I knew it from the moment they revealed his name was freaking Buckley.
Buckley? What kind of name is that?
While Cassie was struggling to deal with the FBI, assassins, cover-ups, and stuffed animal drama, the cast and crew of The Flight Attendant was struggling with a problem that was somehow even bigger. Right at the end of filming, the entire schedule was derailed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Luckily, the show managed to get back into it to finish just in time. If you watch the last episode, you can tell that several sequences are spaced out awkwardly. No one in the FBI office was within 6 feet of each other. While it was scary to be back to work during a pandemic, it apparently was quite nice to pretend to be in, quote, the before times. You know it's been a bad year when the world where you're dodging international assassins is like a vacation. Weirdly enough, the COVID crisis didn't affect the end result of the season all that much. While other shows had to cut entire episodes or shorten their seasons, The Flight Attendant basically got to tell the story exactly how they had always intended it. The only real difference? There was supposed to be a big car wreck stunt. That sequence where someone tries to strangle Miranda was going to lead to an intense driving sequence where she would intentionally wreck to save her own life. I'm not sure what about the COVID crisis made this sequence impossible to shoot, but I'm still sad we didn't get to see it. Maybe they'll show that in the Jason Bourne-style spin-off Miranda should absolutely be getting. I know you've been getting my emails, HBO, even if you haven't responded. There's no denying that Michelle Gomez killed it as Miranda. The quick-witted assassin stole every single scene she was in, threatening to upstage the star herself.
You didn't go!
jump! Nobody said we were jumping yet!
Initially, actress Sonoya Mizuno was cast in the role, but it was reworked and a different actress needed to be brought in. Luckily, Greg Berlanti had already worked with Doctor Who star Michelle Gomez on The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Anyone who has seen that show would have known just as quickly that Gomez was going to kill it as an assassin. I mean, Queen of Hell to evil James Bond is quite the trajectory. Now, you might not remember much about Cecilia, the woman who worked with Miranda and then subsequently betrayed her, also known as that one woman who made the biggest mistake of her life. If something about that actress looked familiar, it's because she was actually related to one of the big stars of the series. Cecilia was actually played by none other than Kaley Cuoco. That's right, Kaley Cuoco's younger sister. The star even commented on how cool it was to see her little sis play someone so tough. It would be cute if she weren't almost definitely about to meet her grisly end once Miranda gets a hold of her. Hopefully, nepotism helps her survive because nothing else will. Cassie Bowden was a bit of an erratic person. I feel like that's the nicest way I can put that. One minute she's laughing, one minute she's crying, one minute she's crashing a funeral. The girl's all over the place. So you can imagine this could prove to be quite the challenge for an actress to navigate her alcohol-driven mood swings that came out of nowhere. That's why Kaley devised an ingenious strategy to help throw out everything she could. She changed up her performance drastically with every single take so that the editing team would have as much to use as possible. One of the things that really threw fans for a loop was the North Korean plotline with Megan. This was a great story, but we were all expecting it to intersect with the main mystery somehow. The reveal that there was no reveal really disappointed a lot of people who thought that Alex's demise might be tied into this plotline. Apparently, the thinking was that they wanted to portray the world of the flight attendant as one of terror and adventure all the time. These two stories were supposed to be like two classic thriller movies intersecting each other. It's sort of like if movies like Psycho and Rear Window existed in the same world. That also explains the whole Shane thing. While there were a lot of things about the Flight Attendant's finale that I called, there was one thing that made me scream, "What?" to the television. That would be, of course, the reveal that Shane was in fact a CIA agent the whole time. I mean, who saw that coming?
Hi, what are you doing here?
Apparently, we should have picked up on it because they were dropping hints left and right. For instance, Shane's attitude against the FBI during his interview should have been a big hint. He also showed an intense interest in Megan throughout the series, hinting at his investigation. I wonder how many flight attendants are secretly CIA agents in deep cover. Of all the crazy mysteries in The Flight Attendant, there was one thing about the series that really threw me. It's finally time that we really talked about Annie's absolutely preposterous shower. I mean, Annie was one of the most closed-off characters in the series. Why would she have a clear shower in her living room? Apparently, it was brought in to show several different things. For one, it was supposed to juxtapose Annie's cold personality and to show how much about her Cassie didn't actually know. It was also supposed to be a hilarious introduction to Max, Annie's BF, on the DL. I mean, what's a funnier way of meeting your best friend's beau than to see him completely naked? The Flight Attendant may have been all about spies, conspiracies, and investigations, but that also stretched behind the scenes as well. Kaley Cuoco apparently went the extra mile while going through the many flights she had to endure due to filming internationally for the series. She kept a close eye on the real-life flight attendants. She paid special attention to things like them changing shoes when they weren't working the cart, or how they gossiped when they thought no one was looking. It was a personal goal of hers to catch one of them sneaking one of those tiny liquor bottles, but apparently all of them were more professional than Cassie. I mean, how could they be worse? If you enjoyed The Flight Attendant, be sure to check out the novel written by author Chris Bojalian. It has a slightly different tone, focusing more heavily on the thrillery aspects. It also has some twists and turns of its own that the TV show didn't. It'll help you out for the long wait for more terrifying action. The book definitely went to some places that even the television show thought was a little too far. By far, the biggest was the reveal that Cassie was actually pregnant with Alex's baby after their night of passion. You thought that funeral was awkward in the series? It would have been so much worse. While this definitely would have made for a shocking twist, apparently it was a no-go for the series. The producers discussed it, but apparently Kaley Cuoco wasn't a big fan of the twist. I am pretty glad they didn't go through with it. Cassie would make just the worst mother of all time. That and she drank pretty much all season. Good call, guys. Cassie went through quite the journey this season. She managed to not only clear her name and escape assassination, but she actually quit drinking as well. This was only possible because she finally came to terms with her father's questionable parenting techniques. While this was great for Cassie, it wasn't as great for us as an audience. If Cassie's no longer drinking or freaking out constantly, what's the show going to be about? Well, apparently, sobriety is not going to be the easiest journey for Cassie. The producers shared that one AA meeting isn't going to be enough to change Cassie's life forever. There also may be more traumas waiting for Cassie to clear up, that or all the ones she experienced this season. In many ways, The Flight Attendant was the culmination of everything Kaley Cuoco has been working towards her entire career. It's obvious that the writers pulled from her career to craft Cassie's story, so let's do a flashback to Kaley Cuoco's past to shed some light on how the series came to be. Her first major role was on the sitcom 8 Simple Rules, where she played Bridget. Like Cassie, Bridget had to go through quite the trauma when her father unexpectedly passed away. The loss of John Ritter was written into the series, hurting the entire family, just like Cassie's. This experience clearly fed into not only Cassie's story, but Kaley Cuoco's performance as well. The thing that Kaley Cuoco is most known for is playing Penny in The Big Bang Theory.
That's what you took from that?
The series was the #1 sitcom for years. While characters like Sheldon and Howard got most of the attention, fans often thought the focus should be moved to Penny, specifically to her obvious alcoholism, which was played as more or less a punchline. While it is never directly addressed in the series, Penny is clearly a functional alcoholic, just like Cassie. She was also known to be quite the partier, dating about as many guys as Cassie did. The only difference is that she never woke up next to Leonard's dead body. Well, maybe after the show went off the air. The last show Kaley Cuoco is known for is the other HBO Max series, Harley Quinn. This show, if you couldn't tell from the title, is all about the famous Batman villain and her struggles to redefine herself after breaking things off with the Joker once and for all. After things ended with him, Harley had something of a mental breakdown while trying to become her own supervillain. The series largely deals with Harley's brutal mood swings and attempts to sort through her past traumas that led to her villainy in the first place. Sound familiar? The show was Kaley's first foray into R-rated material that stretched her dramatic muscles. While it's only a cartoon, this showed she was ready for more. HBO certainly likes to keep things in-house. Kaley Cuoco was from Harley Quinn, and Mikael Hausman was in Game of Thrones. One of the biggest gets from one of their old series was Annie. Zasha Mamet actually played Shoshana in the HBO series Girls for several years. If that wasn't enough for you, she's also the daughter of David Mamet, one of the most famous playwrights and screenwriters ever. One of the reasons why the show was so confidently made was that it came from one of the biggest producers in the business. Greg Berlanti, famous for thrillers like You, Riverdale, and The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, worked on the series as well. He's also the guy responsible for most of the DC superhero shows in existence at the moment. So that makes Berlanti like the luckiest producer in Hollywood. If the show has one influence more than any other, it's the films by the master of thrillers, Alfred Hitchcock. In fact, the show was largely framed as the story of a normal girl who finds herself falling into a Hitchcock-style adventure. So if you have a big flight attendant-shaped hole in your life, I strongly recommend you check out some Hitchcock films. My favorite is by far Strangers on a Train. Nothing spells thriller quite like a terrifying commute. The classic book Crime and Punishment ended up becoming one of the integral parts of the series. It was the place where Alex secretly hid his bank account numbers. This was one of the bigger reveals of the series, seeing as Cassie held it the whole time. Funnily enough, Crime and Punishment also features a similar plot to The Flight Attendant. It features many similar themes, such as alcoholism, murder, and brutal family politics. Only that story makes Cassie's childhood seem like a dream. Russian novels aren't known for being upbeat. If you like this series, get ready for a whole new world for Kaley Cuoco. According to her, this was her big attempt to break down doors for her career. She no longer wants to be defined as a sitcom actress. According to her, this could be the project that leads to bigger dramatic work going forward. If you were like me, you were kind of in a bittersweet mood after the Flight Attendant's finale. Sure, I was glad to see Cassie get a happy ending, but I wanted more. Fortunately, HBO Max heard my feelings because it turns out that whole limited series thing was a joke. The Flight Attendant got renewed almost immediately.
We're back!
Apparently, the writers were so confident that they even called the first season Chapter 1. You've got to admire that level of conviction. So, the next season is definitely going to be about Cassie getting in deep with Megan's North Korean situation, right? $10 says it's basically going to be the interview all over again. I mean, if anyone could infiltrate a dictator's home, you gotta admit that Cassie would be the ideal candidate.
So yeah, I'm just gonna